I'd now like to introduce the New South Wales Commissioner of Victim Rights and Chair of Victim Support Australia, Mahashini Krishna. As Chair of the VSA, Mahashini became Chair of the organising committee of the symposium, and we've worked very closely with her over a considerable period to get this conference up and running. Mahashini is also co-chair of the National Law, Crime and Community Safety Council's Working Group on Victims of Crime and has been a member of the New South Wales Law Society Human Rights Committee. Please join me in welcoming Mahashini Krishna.
It is actually a long walk. And for once, the lectern isn't taller than I am, which is always a good start. Thank you very much, Adam. And also, I would like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land on which this symposium is being held today, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to thank all the sponsors, keynote speakers, session and plenary presenters, and especially all of you who will be attending. I also want to thank the World Society of Victimology Executive, Adam and the Australian Institute of Criminology, Anne and Angel Hands, and my fellow Executive Committee members from Victim Support Australia. Welcome to everyone here today, and also those who will be attending over the next 4 days. It is a pleasure to be here among people who have made contributions in shaping the rights, services and support for victims of crime. Those who have raised awareness about these issues in their countries and who continue to work to make changes and improvements. International and national representatives are here because we share the common goals of wanting to understand more about victimology, to expand our knowledge so that we can improve our practices, become better leaders in the field, and ultimately empower victims to get back on their feet. This year also marks the 30th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration on Basic Principles of Justice for Victims of Crime and Abuse of Power that was adopted in 1985. The basic principles outline international best practice for treatment of victims of crime and provides a very broad definition of victims that has been incorporated by other international and national jurisdictions. The basic principle sets out key principles and rights that victims, their families, witnesses, and anyone who intervenes in a crime has, and that should be followed. It acknowledges that victims are entitled to access to justice and fair treatment. It recognises an offender's obligation to pay restitution and compensation, and where that's not available, that it is the state's responsibility to provide that compensation. It recognises the victim's needs to practical, medical, and other assistance, and importantly, it draws attention to the necessity for victims' rights in the criminal justice system. Its adoption has strengthened the rights of victims of crime, and we are continually ensuring that this continues to get stronger. In Australia itself, in 1996, a National Charter of Victims' Rights was introduced, which recognises the basic principles. Each state and territory in Australia has either introduced a principle or charter of victims' rights and has support services targeted to victims of crime. As people working in this area, both you and I, we continue to explore good practice for the provision of these services and how we can better coordinate our support to ensure that victims are supported and their rights recognised. Victimology is a growing and ever-expanding discipline, and a lot of advancements have been made, and this includes giving victims a greater voice in the system, better understanding and support provision for victims of domestic and family violence and victims of sexual abuse, including a recognition of adult survivors. We've broken myths in relation to victims of crime and also about gendered crime. We've ensured that victims are consulted and more involved in the process. We also, where possible, provide individualised and greater support as victims recover and from their journey following a violent crime. There's also a lot of research out there that allows policymakers and governments to make evidence-based policy that ensures trauma is recognised as part of that policy. There is also various improvements that have been made in the criminal justice system, like the ability for victims to provide a victim impact statement that sets out the trauma or the impact the crime has had on them. There is an expansion of restorative justice, and importantly, I think most agencies, police, court and policymakers are increasing to understand or have an understanding about trauma-informed care and practice and incorporating that in the work that they do. We have also expanded our knowledge on the lasting and ongoing impact of trauma, which is something that we all need to remember, that it is not just following a crime, but something that can remain with the person for life, and that is quite important and a very expanding area. We're also broadening our understanding about other types of loss. For example, the work being done in ambiguous loss and families and friends where someone goes missing, not necessarily as a result of a crime. With the world also being accessible to everyone by social media and the internet, we are also recognising new and emerging crime types like cybercrime, human trafficking and slavery, and also recognising that there are no borders or boundaries to crime, that we all have to work together as a unified force to support the victims of international crimes. The theme of the 15th International World Society of Victimology Symposium of Victimisation, Justice and Healing, Challenging Orthodoxies, is about recognising that crime has no borders and seeing what has been achieved in the victimology space. It is also about learning through the keynotes, concurrent sessions and plenaries about how we can improve and expand what we do. I hope the next 4 days broadens your mind, provides ideas and inspiration, new insights, expands your awareness of victimology and trauma, and gives you opportunities for interjurisdictional collaboration, that you network with people that you may not normally meet in your day-to-day working life. I would like to again thank everyone for attending, both today and in the next 4 days, and again thank the keynotes and also the World Society of Victimology. Thank you.